So this is my Mintay day-by-day folio that I created, and it is about 6 3/4 inch wide, 8.5 inch tall, with about a 1/2 inch spine. So I'll show you what I came up with this. So this opens up, and right here is a great place to journal. You can place a photo here if you want. You can write dates, you can write anything you want right in there, and that is magnetic. This is similar to the Stamperia Princess folio I did, but different. So if you're going to do this tutorial, you'll definitely want to download the PDF of the free cutting guide materials list. So let's get into this. So this opens up, and I'm going to open this one up too. And what there is over here is a pocket. And get some picture mats out here. And this paper is just absolutely amazing. I love it. And the same thing is over here. And that was kind of like my other folio. The difference is what you're going to see next in the following flip pages. Right here we have 2 flips, and I just put a little card in here for photos, and this flips out, and there's places here to put photos. So it's really cool. I really like this design, and that will open up. Over here you can place photos, and then what you have are 2 pockets, and you have your waterfall in the middle. So, and these are generous size pockets here. And the great thing about this is you only need 1 paper pack. And this is magnetic, and this comes down, and we have our waterfall. And down here you have a place to put a photo. Really neat. So that's what we're going to be making today, and it's super easy. I'm just going to stick everything back in here, and this will hold quite a bit of photos. Now I haven't counted the spaces on this, but as you can see, you can put more picture mats in here. You can even tuck in some right in here like I did. And in here. And these guys go back in here. So it's a very easy design. So you just kind of flip it all and it just kind of goes back together for you. So that is all there is to it. It is fairly quick compared to the mini album. One thing I wanted to show you was some extras that you can actually do with this. So I'm going to open this up. If you are a die cutter, you can die cut your trim, and you can actually glue it down before you place your paper down. And you can actually kind of do a little bit of fancy trim work for this. It's super simple, just to add a couple pieces. I have 4 here, and I'm not sure if this will fit in here yet. I might have to trim this down. But as you can see, you can put some trim over here, trim over here, and get that in there. So you can actually have a different look to it if you wanted. So I just thought I would show that, and in the materials list I'll tell you what I used here in case that's what you want to do. But let's move on into the materials list and get started on making this. So to make this folio, all you're going to need is a 1/4 inch score tape. You'll want some glue. I use the Art Glitter Dries Clear with the metal tip. You'll want some magnets, just 1 pack. And the main ingredients to this is the Mintay day-by-day paper pack. And there are 12 double-sided sheets in here. And it is, I love it. And there's a bunch of cut-aparts that you can use, and it's just really nice. Look at that. I really enjoyed working with this. Now in here there's 2 of each design, and so That's always helpful, having two of the same prints and stuff when you're building stuff like that. But that's all there is, and you've seen the rest there. So you'll just need one of these, and this is the Mintay Day by Day. You'll want a 12 by 12 black cardstock, and I'm using the American Craft. If you have a different 12 by 12, use it. Optional is the trim dies, and I'll probably insert these in the one that I make today, and it's not necessary. You can just make it just like I showed you without it. But in case you wanted to know what I was using, is the Heartfelt Creations decorative pocket accents. I die cut 2 of these right up here. That's it. And that's what they look like. I also die cut 2 pieces from the Frame a Card Leafy Borders, and the size I used was this one, so it's the second from the largest. Okay, let's get started building our folio. We're going to go over our pre-cuts off the free PDF of the materials and pre-cutting guide, and also it has your scoring in there. Now the first one on the list was the base, and this was 8.5 by 12 inches, and there were 2 of these. And there was a note in there, if you were confused, to wait for the tutorial. So we're going to first on this pre-cut get this ready, and we're going to score it together. So you have 2 pieces, and I'm going to lay them out long, and you want your 1/4 inch score tape because the overlap is a 1/4 inch. So you have them laying out long, 12 inches wide in front of you. On one of them, you're going to place your score tape so that you can overlap, of course. We'll burnish that down, and you'll want to burnish. And all burnishing is flattening out score tape or glue to get the air out or to make sure it's evenly distributed, like with glue. So I'm going to make sure I have no overhang here. So that was the first step, to overlap. Now the next thing is we're going to remove the score tape, and we're going to just overlap. And what I like to do is grab my cutting board because it has a nice flat paper guide that will keep me straight. So I am going to just move that and get the score tape backing off one. Otherwise, I always get mine on crooked, and this is, you'll definitely want to get this on straight as you can. So I'm just going to slide that underneath the base there. And I'm just going to place this until it overlaps. And hopefully it'll go on fairly straight. I think that's good enough. So that's all there was with that. Now let's grab our scoring board. What the instructions were to lay it on your scoring board, and we're going to start from the first side here. And we're going to score it 1.5. We're going to score at 8 inches. We're going to score at 8.5. Now, the next thing it said to do was turn your paper around so it is again across your board. We're going to start scoring from the opposite end. 1.5. We're going to need 8 and 8.5. And that's all there was to this. So this is our base. Looks like I got a little bit off down here. Just a little bit. Either that or I cut my thing wrong. So I'll just kind of trim that off a bit. There we go. So we have that all scored, and it's ready to set aside. I'm going to grab my scoring board back out. There's going to be more scoring. The next one said we needed 2 pieces that were 6 3/4 by 8.5, and we labeled these inner pages. On each one of these, we laid them so we were 6 3/4 across our board, and we scored it at 3/8 on each one of these. Our next one was one piece that was 3 7/8 by 5 inch. We called it a front panel. There's no scoring. Next, we had a 1 1/2 by 4 1/8 piece. We called it a strap. We laid this across our scoring board, so we were 4 1/8 inch across. We scored it at 1/2 and 5/8. We then had two pieces that were 4 by 6 1/2. We called them an inner flip. We laid this on our scoring board, so we were 6 1/2 inches across. We scored each at 3/8. Now, one thing I want to point out is it does not matter on your scoring board if your zero starting point is here or over here. It won't matter. Next, what we had was 6 pieces that were 4 3/8 by 5 1/4, and we called them Waterfall. What we did on each one is we laid these on our scoring board, so we were 4 3/8 across. We scored each at 4 inches on all of these. Next, we had two pieces that were 4 1/2 by 7 1/8. We called them our pocket. We laid this on our scoring board so that we were 4 1/2 inches across. We scored it at 1/2 inch. Then we turned it, so now we are 7 1/8 inch across. We scored at 1/2 inch and 6 5/8 inch on each one of these. Our last pre-cut was 3 1/2 by 4 1/8. We called it a front folder. It said to lay this on our scoring board, so we were 3 1/2 inches across, and we scored it at 3/8. All right, let's get started to assembling this. First thing we're going to want is our base. And all we're going to do to start off is start folding on those score lines, making sure that when we do fold these, that we match up to the top. So if you got your scoring just a little off, just make sure you line it up. So we're just going to fold. I think I'll start folding in from this side to be easier. Alrighty, so we have that. Our next step is to get our inner pages in here. And this is really simple. All we're going to do is fold on those little score lines that we did on each one of these. Okay. Grab our 1/4 inch score tape, and we will lay it right in there between the score line and the edge, right in the middle. Burnish that down. Do that over here. Burnish that. Okay, so when you have your base all laid out here, you will notice you have a 1/2 inch space. So we have a score line here and a score line here. We also have a score line here and here. So what we're going to do on this first one is we're going to remove the score tape backing, and in this little area in between the score lines, what we're going to do is lay this. And when we lay, it's pretty simple. We'll be able to match up the bottom of this with the bottom of our base because it's going to be the same. And the idea here is not to cover your score line, this inner score line. You're going to want to just come just to the right of that, and then you will place it. And that will allow you, if you were to place it down right now so you can see what I'm talking about, just to the right of that score line, when you turn it over here, you'll be able to still see the score line on this side. If you cannot see your score line on this side, you're going to have to scoot it over a little more until you can. So I'm going to get the first one. It's really quite simple. What I like to first do is get this bottom one and line it up with the bottom of that. I'm going to press, and then I'm just going to guide this, watching that score line. And it's down. And we're going to burnish that. And I can still see that score line back there, so I did right. The next one, we're going to do the same, except for this one, your peak is over here, of course, and you're going to do the same thing but opposite. So you'll bring it over here, your flap, here's your inner score line, will come just to the left of that, and you should still see your score line by the time you're done on over here. So again, I'm going to line it up down here first, just to the left of that score line. My paper, I'm going to press to hold that while I maneuver this. And then I'm just going to try and get this as straight as I can. So there are your inner pages. Now we're going to be numbering these, of course, so that it keeps us straight on what we are doing. So the first thing I would like you to do, once you have it all opened in front of you, like this, so just fold those in for right now. What I want you to do is take this side over here, and I want you to pull it over, and we're going to write front. Okay, so you have front, and then I want you to pull this over, and I want you to write, this is front, because we got actually two fronts. We have, this one's going to end up going like this, and then this one. That way it keeps you straight. So front right side. And then what you can do, front left side. Okay, now with it all together, turn it over, and I want you to put back. And I'm going to erase anything that I can see that I wrote on here. So that's the back. Okay, so let's open this all up. Here are these pages. Just throw them off to the side really quick. We're going to put a 1 right here. Here is my first page. Insert. We're going to put a 2. We're going to turn it over. We're going to go 3. The very back is a 4. Here is my next page insert. This is going to be 5. I'm going to turn that over. We're going to put a 6. And then over here we're going to have 7. And that's going to keep us straight during the tutorial of what we are working on. It's really going to be helpful. Next thing I want you to do is right over here, you'll notice we have a little flap. And what we're going to write here is magnets, okay? And what you can do is just put a couple circles. So that will keep you straight, knowing, because the front left is the one that comes over. So that's going to be there. Here are inner pages. We'll just fold those right in. Now what I want you to do is over here, I want you to hold that down. You're going to come back to your front side over here. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to put a couple, they're not going to line up, but that's going to tell you these are where other magnets go. And that way we can keep straight. okay? At least that's the easiest way for me when it comes to folios, when especially you're working with dark cardstock and pages kind of all blend together until you get your paper on there. All right, I think we're going to start with our front left side. In your paper pack, you will find this gorgeous print. On the back, it is like the white marble. The first thing that we're going to do is put this on our paper trimmer, and we're going to trim off this trim piece. Now, don't throw the trim piece away, because we do need in the tutorial two, 3 times maybe, this little sentiment here. So this is what we just cut off. Now, one thing I want to tell you in my tutorials, and those of you that follow along with me on a lot of these know what I'm about ready to say. Anything that you cut off, we are going to place in a scrap pile. I don't call it a scrap pile, I call it our reserves, because we're reserving that scrap piece for later use in the tutorial. So I'm going to be placing this in my reserves. So for this, we're pretty much kind of the same on the back. I'm not going to worry too much on this. But the first thing that we're going to want to do is we are going to measure over 8¼ inches and cut. And I'm going to grab my paper cutter and do some of these first cuts with you. So measuring over 8¼ inches and cut. And my blade is right here, straight down. So 8¼ and I'm going to cut. This piece here I'm going to put in my reserves for now. Okay, so we have that. Next thing we're going to do is turn this so it's the long way. Okay, we're going to measure over 6¼ inches and cut. 6¼ This piece over here goes in our reserves. This is what we want. So I'm going to stick that off to the side. This piece here now is 6¼ by 8¼ and I'm looking at the front left side. And if you were to place this and center it in there, that will give you a nice black border. So for right now, I'm just going to pull this open. It'll be easier when I'm trying to glue this down or do my score tape. But here is that 1/2 inch spacing. So we're going to make sure that when we center this, it's in between this score line and the edge. Here is that little flap that goes to the inside. Now you can use your glue or you can use score tape to place this. I like using score tape, so it's totally up to you. If you use score tape or glue, you're going to definitely want to make sure that you burnish down really well. So the first thing, if you're using score tape too, you'll want to go around that edge like a picture frame. That's what we're going to start by doing here. And one thing is if you're wrapping it around edges like me, sometimes when you take the score tape off, it could make a little bit of a thickness down here. So you'll have to burnish down really good. The easiest way for a lot of people is just to come down, cut it, and then start again. I'm a little more lazy. I like to do it this way, and then I just burnish down that little extra bit in the corners. And the reason why I like to use score tape, especially on certain pages and on the outside, is because I make sure that I get those edges so nothing lifts. So once I have that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to place one down the middle and one on either side of that, spaced out. Okay, now we burnish. And you'll do this, if you're using glue, of course, you'll be doing that once you get it down. And I'm doing it before to get the air out from underneath that score tape backing and my paper, because air, if it gets caught, like little air bubbles, the spreading, you can get liftage and you can spread. But I'm a score tape person, so I use score tape a lot. So I'm just going to take this all off now, and we're going to place this. And again, we're on our front left side. And we're just going to place this evenly as best we can, top and bottom. And now I'm going to burnish again to make sure that air gets out. And it's all down, especially in those corners. Okay, we're just going to leave that open right now because we have some things that we need to get at. One of the things that we're going to need to get now is our 3 7/8 by 5" front panel. So we'll need that. We're also going to need to get our 3½ by 4 1/8 front folder. So we'll set that off to the side. So your front panel, what you're going to want to do with this is, we can use glue for this, is we are going to glue that down. Again, this is front panel. And I'm going to leave my writing up because it does get covered. We'll just use some glue here. And I'm going to center that in there as best I can, side to side, top to bottom. And hopefully I'll get that on straight. And I'm going to burnish that down really good. Okay. Now, in your reserves, you will find this long piece on the back. It looks like this. If you were to place this down, you will notice, and you bring it up, you will notice it will give you a black border on each side. And we're going to end up cutting this down so it will leave us the black border top and bottom. So this piece here is about 3 7/8 wide by 12 inches. It's perfect for the width right now. So we're going to turn this, we're going to measure over 4 7/8 inch and cut. So this is what I have, and if I place this down after that cut, that will give me a black border top, bottom, side to side. And we're going to glue this down. Centering it in there as best we can. The next thing is we want our 3½ by 4 1/8 front folder, and we're going to fold on that score line. Okay, we're going to grab a piece of our score tape and lay it in between there. That little hinge is going to be off on this side. We're going to remove it, and we're going to pull this back behind. We're going to look, and we're going to try and get that on center, top, bottom, side to side, as best we can. Let's get into our magnets. I'm going to grab a plus and a minus. Oh, they're stuck now. Now I did it. There we go. I've got a plus here. And I'm going to come over to the inside. I'll come in about an inch. I'm going to place this one down over the top, the mate. So now the minus is up there. And all I'm going to do is bring it over and press. And then I'm going to carefully pull this up, and it's set my magnet. Now I am going to have to put something over that, and I will in just a bit. But let's get to covering this and what we need to do here and what we can do right here. Now I could have placed this other mate underneath there, and that probably would have been ideal, but we'll work on that. In your paper pack, you will find this, the little panels page. On the back, it looks like this. Let's first take off this trim piece. Okay. So the next thing that we're going to do here is we'll place this on our paper cutter, and we're just going to cut straight down to release these panels from this, and I will show you mine. So I have that cut. Let's put this in our reserves. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to divide all these panels up. So I'm going to stick this on my paper cutter and I'm going to cut. So this is everything that you should have right now. This one right here goes right on top and we center it in there to give us a black border. So let's get that one down. Okay. We're going to open that up carefully. Now you should have these three here. Let's flip this one over and we will glue that one down to the inside. And if you need to trim off a little more to make it fit better, do so, but make sure you do not get it on that little hinge. And I'm going to trim mine down. As you can see, I still have some from the other panel on there. And I'm going to glue that down. And one thing that might make it easier for you to see what I'm doing is I'm going to take this piece out of my reserve so you can see the black outline. I think that might be easier. And we'll glue that down. And I'm just clearing that score line. Because if you get it on the score line, your paper is not going to want to, your fold out isn't going to want to fold out correctly. It's going to be very stiff and it's just going to give you a little bit of problems. So clean up the glue here, seeped out. Now I have these left over and I could place one right here. I'm going to move that out of the way. And that would look really good, bringing it up there and having it like that so it's still covering. Or I could use this one, which looks really good too, that I could use. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the checkered one. So I'm going to trim that down on the side just a little bit. And I'm going to bring that over to the hinge. I'll just pull that up, make sure I'm lined up with my paper in here, and I'm going to glue that down. So now when you close it, it covers it. Okay, grab one of your day-by-day strips. And you'll need your scissors. And what we're going to do with this is we're just going to cut to the right of the little flowers, and then I'll get it over here too. And I think I'm just going to place that right here. I like that. I'll center it in there as best I can. That looks good. Now this little piece I'm just going to toss now, these little leftovers. I won't be needing that. So our front cover is done. We're going to move on to the back. Now you will have this piece in your reserves, and it's only about 5 3/4 wide, but it is the 8 1/4 long. And if you place this in between those score lines, you're going to have some spacing here of black left over. That's okay, because we end up coming back and placing strips at the end of the tutorial. And I'm not going to use glue, I'm going to use my score tape. So again, I'm on the back and I'm going to center that top and bottom. So the bottom will match up with over here. And I'm going to have probably a good 1/2 inch or so spacing on each side between those inner score lines when I place this. All I'm going to do with this is the same thing I did on this one. I'm going to go around the outside edges like a picture frame, one down the middle and one on either side. And I will burnish and then place this. This little leftover card you can put in your reserves. In between there. Okay, let's go ahead, and we're not going to be placing our strips on the edge of our folio until the end. We use scrap paper, the strips. Yep. So, okay, we're going to start with number 1. In your paper pack, you will find this lovely print. Has the little light bulbs hanging down, the roses, the couch. On the back, it is this. Let's take off that trim piece. Okay. I have the trim piece off. I'm going to turn my paper sideways. So the couch is here, the flowers are here. I'm going to measure over 8 1/4 inches and cut. After you make that cut, this is what you should have. This is going in our reserves. All we have to do now, looking at it this way, is measure over 6 inches and cut that right in half. Now, keep both pieces, because we're going to need it. We're going to complete 1, and we're going to complete number 2 together. So this one here that has the coats, we're just going to set off to the side. This one, when we place this down, notice where your hinge is. You're going to bring this over and leave maybe 1/8 inch spacing from the side of your decorated paper to your hinge. And that's going to leave you about a 1/2 inch to the next score line over here. And that's what we want. Now you can use glue if you would like, or you can use score tape. Again, I'm a score tape girl, so I think I'll just use score tape. At least around the edges, and maybe I'll fill in with some glue. Just like to make sure. My worst pet peeve is liftage on the edges. So, and I know that when I get the score tape down there, it's going to hold it down flat. So I'm going to burnish that down really quick. And then I think I'll switch over to some glue. I think I'll be okay. Now here's the thing with glue. If you're using glue and you notice after you place this, that after you burnish that you're getting any wobbling or warping, that's when the telltale sign, you need to use your score tape. But I think this paper is thick enough. I'm going to remove the score tape backing to where you should not get that. As long as you're using a good glue, I think you'll be okay. I know the art glitter glue is very good, so I think I'll try that. So just make sure I get my glue in there. Just make sure you got it evenly spread and you have enough. Okay, I'm going to place this centering top and bottom, leaving about a 1/8 inch spacing. And I think that's it. So now we're going to burnish. Okay, all we have to do with this piece here is we're going to open it up and we're going to put a line of glue here and a line of glue here, and we're going to fold it over on top, and that's going to create our pocket. It's time to get our magnets. So I'm going to grab 2 plus, and I'm going to grab 2 minus, and we're going to place it. And we're going to place one here and one here. Now, you don't have to be precise with your measurements. You can just eyeball this. But the idea is when you place it over here, you're going to want to be centered in between the edge and your pocket. So you just bring it up, and I'll grab another plus, and I'll come down from the top a bit. And I'll get that in the middle somewhere and place it. Okay, these two over here, you can just stick them right on top of the mate. So here's this. You have spacing. So what you're going to do is pull this over on top, the right side. So all you're looking at is this. And you're going to bring this over first. Don't undo your tape yet. But what you're wanting to do is make sure that you are flat and even on the sides. Okay, it should look something like that. You'll still be able to see a little bit of your black cardstock from this page. So we're going to do this to set these really quick. And just take your time. What I like to do is once I got this nice and straight, and I know it's straight because I'm lined up here, top and bottom, and I'll push it until I can feel, and I can see that the bottom of this is lined up with this. Now for this one, I have to have a spacing as well, so I'm going to have to pull it in a little, and I'm still lined up here, I'm still straight over here, and I'm going to place my finger down so it does not latch yet. And this is where you can feel to make sure you are flat. You can look over here to make sure you are flat and where you need to be and lined up. And that's good. So I'm going to slip my hands in here and I'm going to press. Now I'm going to just carefully open this up. Carefully. So now you have your magnets placed. Let's get for this. In your paper pack, you will have another one of these. Let's take off that trim piece. And on the back, it looks like this. Okay, I have the trim piece off. All we're going to do on this is we're going to measure over 1 3/8 inch and we're going to cut. So you'll have a long strip. Next, we'll measure over 8 1/4 inches and cut. Okay, this piece here should fit nicely right on your pocket, giving you a black border here and a little over here, and you will match the top and bottom of your paper up with the paper on here. Oh, really quick, before I put mine down, I was going to use some trim here. So this is where you want to use your trim first before your paper. Sorry about that. And on this particular one, we're just going to place glue right down here. And you may want to grab a scrap piece of cardstock just to slide in there. And you're going to place it to where this top piece right here is on your thing, and you're going to try and get that as even as possible side to side. Place mine right about there, and again, this is just if you want to do that. Some of my glue did dry up here, so I'm going to put some more. I think I should be okay. Now I'm going to get this on there. Okay, I'm going to move this out of the pocket. I did not get any glue seeping out on the sides. So now, if you use that, you will have a little pocket. Okay, we can open that up. We are on number 2. And what we're going to do is place this down. And I seem to be okay with glue, and I think I'll just use glue for this. I just got to be careful around my edges. I know a lot of you prefer glue, and this feels funny to me, not using my score tape, but I'll make sure I get those edges good. And you're going to center this side to side, so you'll have a black lip, and I'm going to put this right back here so you can see. So it's easier sometimes to get something back there, so you'll just place this down. Now we do have our little fold outs, and we're actually going to hook those on to the side over here on the back side. All right, we need this is just a different way of doing things. I'm going to keep this here so you can kind of see what I'm doing. We need our 4 by 6.5 inner flips. And we'll just do that. Okay, so what we're going to do on this is we have our page, and we're just going to slide that right in there. And what happens is it comes over to the back side. So first, before we glue anything down, what you're going to want to do is just hook both of these on. And what you'll do then is you'll just slide it down. You can slide one all the way down until it just covers your decorative paper. And then this one's going to slide up there to where it just covers your decorative paper. So it will look like this and give us a nice spacing in here. So then what you can do is when we're all done with this page, and you can actually slip something and it will hold with those magnets in place. So now you know where this is supposed to be. I'm going to get that on there. I'm going to pinch and hold this page, and I'm going to flip it over and make sure that it stays. Now what I'm going to do is place some glue and get that down. Okay, we're going to do the same with this one. We're going to hook it on just until it covers that decorative paper, and I think that's good right there. And we will get some glue under that hinge. Okay, let's go back to this, and what we're going to do is open this up. Let's grab a couple plus, and we need a couple minus. We're going to bring this in, about an inch or so, right in the middle. And we will do the same with the other. Okay, now what we want to do is just close these up. Close them up and flip your page over. Let's grab those two on the other. It's going to find the mates, wherever they may be, and they should be right on over here. All we have to do here is just squirt a little glue in there. Oops, come on, get up. And that's all we're going to do with that, is squirt in some glue. And then we're going to wipe up any glue that we may have. And now these will hold down nicely without being too much, I guess I'm trying to say. All right, so we're going to start by opening up these. And what we're going to do is in your reserves you will have this. On the back it is this. Okay, and I think what I want to do is I'm going to be turning this upside down to where the couch is up here. We're going to measure over 5 7/8 inch and cut. So this is what you should have. If you were to place this actually up here, and again I'm going to grab something to place behind so you can see what I'm doing. Back behind these two fold outs. So if you were to place this up in this panel and center it, it will give you a black border here, 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 and a border before it hits the score line. This is good, and we are going to glue this down. Okay, in your reserves, you will have this last panel. And if you were to place this down, you'll notice it's just a little bit too long to give us that black border. So what we're going to do is trim off about a 1/16 inch up here and down here. And then we will check. Kind of even on each side. And then I'm going to check it to see. And now I will have that black border. I'm not going to glue that down just yet. Okay. In your reserves, you will have this sheet. And if you flip it over, you will have all of these fun little things here. And we want this one. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to put it on my paper cutter. I'm going to cut down and over to get this one out. And I'll leave these all intact. So I was able to get this out. And again, I'm going to have to trim off. And I'm going to actually, because the paper is shorter up here than here, I'll be just trimming off a little. Now you'll want to keep these to where they're the same size. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one, I'm going to put it over the top to match them up, and now I can see how much I need to trim off. Kind of matching it up is all I'm doing there. And now they should be the same. All right. We are ready to glue these down. And the first one, I'll make sure I leave just a little bit of black there away from that. Now for this one, if you push it up against, it will be absolutely it'll go over the edge. So what I'm going to do is just trim off a little from this side. And about a 1/16 of an inch off should be good. That's what I'm thinking. And now I have black border over here. And I'm just pushing them together now. And I'm going to glue this down. So easy trimming to make it fit. I call it kind of a measure to fit. So I'm just going to bring these even over. And my black border is right here. So those two are done. And now we'll get for our paper here. And the paper that we actually need is this. Okay, so right now, our page, we took off a strip over here. We're going to turn it so we are 12 inches across. We're going to measure over 5 7/8 inch and cut. So this is what you should have, and if you were to place this down, on your panel, it will give you a black border over here and over here if you were to center it. Okay, we're going to turn it now. We're going to measure over 3 7/8 inch and cut. We'll measure over again 3 7/8 inch and cut. You should have 2 of these, and now they will fit in there, giving you a black border. We're going to glue that down, and we're going to glue that one down. Alrighty, so we are complete with 1 and we are complete with 2. So we have this opened up. Make sure you're looking at 3, 4, which is our very back, and 5. And right now what we're going to be accomplishing is page 3 and 5 because they are identical. In your paper pack, you will find this print. It is absolutely gorgeous. On the back, it is this. Let's take off that trim piece. All right, we're just going to turn it sideways. Our flowers are down here. The steps are sideways. We have the table up here. We're going to measure over 8 1/4 inches and cut. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to measure over 6 inches and cut that right in the middle. So this is what you should have. Let's go on over here. If you were to place this, you can center it and it will give you a nice black border, top, bottom, the side and the side over here, and it leaves you 1/8 inch away from that. So what we're going to do is we're going to glue this one down, and we'll be doing the same with the other, but it goes on number 5. Number 4 is our waterfall page, so we're going to have to do something a little different there. Okay, don't forget to remove any sticker backing and maybe get around that with some glue as well. And we will place this. And definitely make sure you get those edges where your magnet's here, and just make sure that you get right along the edge of your paper there. Make sure it doesn't pop up. Okay, here is 5. Now don't be confused. This is 7 over here, so you can just tuck that in so all you see is 5. But because it is hard to see, I am going to slide that back behind 5 so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm doing the same thing, but there's no magnets. This is such a pretty folio with these colors. I love them. I think I got that on fairly straight. We had 2 pre-cuts, 4.5 by 7 1/8. They are our pockets, and they're going to place, once we get these arranged here, they're going to place right on over that. So here's what we want to do. We have score lines on the side, 1 across the bottom, and you will notice it creates a square. So we're going to cut up on those score lines to cut out those squares, and we're going to do that on both of our pieces. I'm going to just move that up really quick so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to fold on these score lines. All right, what we're going to want to do is on the sides, we're going to fold those in. Now down here in the corner, we just want to dab a little glue right here on that bottom flap in the corner. With our sides tucked in, this now comes up and over. And I'm going to burnish down, make sure that this is done right. And again, on this one, down in the corner, on that bottom flap, and up. Okay, so you can use, here's our thing, we can use glue or you can use your score tape. What's going to happen is once we get our adhesive on there, we are going to bring this all the way down to the bottom of our decorated paper, and that should fit side to side. So I'm going to use glue for this, because I know a lot of you do. And I'm just getting it on that lip there. And I'm going to place it. And that will cover your paper. Get that on straight, and we'll burnish that. And there is our little pocket. We're going to do the same over here. Alright, if you are using die cuts, this is where you would want to place yours, and it goes on top of the pocket before we place the paper. So when I die cut these, just so you know, I have on this bottom I left about a 1/2 inch lip so that I can have something to glue down to. And that lip is what comes onto the other. Just like that. Again, you don't need to have this trim to do this because the other one I did not. And as far as your width, you're just going to measure your width of your trim to about the width of your pocket there. Okay, let's get our paper for this. Okay, in your reserves, you will find this print. On the back, it looks like this. This is about 3 7/8 inch. That's perfect. The width is about 7 1/8 inch. What we're going to do with this is we are going to measure over 6 inches and cut. After making that cut and you flip it over, you will notice that it will fit right there on that pocket, giving you a little bit of a black lip. And we're going to glue that down. I think that's fairly even. Now with this other piece, we need to grab something off of it before we can cut, because we're going to need it. So first thing I would like you to do, we're looking at it the long way like this. I'd like you to measure over 1 3/8 inch and cut. Okay, this long strip, I just want you to set it off to the side so we don't lose it. We're actually going to need that for our very back. So now what we're going to do is we're going to turn this sideways, this piece. We're going to measure over 6 inches and cut. We will turn it this way. We are 6 inches long. We'll measure over 3 7/8 inch and cut. Okay, flip that over. This gets glued down right on over here. Now there are some pieces from the little cut-aparts in this paper collection. We'll get to that after we get some of this down. All right, page 3 and 5 are complete. Let's move on to page 4, which is our middle back, and that's our waterfall page. In your paper pack, you will find another one of these. And on the back, it looks like this. Let's take off this trim piece. The first thing we're going to do is turn it sideways so that the little light bulbs are over here, the couch is down here, like we did before. We're going to measure over 8 1/4 inches and cut. Now this back piece is a lot larger than some of our other pages. So we're going to look at it like this. We're going to measure over 6 1/2 inches and cut. Okay, what we're going to do right now is we are going to set our piece off to the side so we can start working on our waterfall. And we're going to grab all 6 of our waterfalls and we're going to fold on those score lines. I've got glue all over me. Okay, with the peak up, what you're going to want to do is lay a piece of your 1/4 inch score tape right on that flap, right in the center. And you will definitely want to burnish it down and clip off anything that might overhang if you're tearing it off. And we're going to do that with each one of these. So let's get these ready to go. Okay, I have all mine done. What I would like you to do is take your ruler, place it down in the middle somewhere, and I want you to measure up about 4 3/8 inch and just place a little pencil mark. That is the mark of which we will start this. So I'm going to tell you what we're going to do before we do it. It might make it easier so you're not flying blind here. But what's going to happen is I'm going to remove the score tape backing. I'm going to fold this back behind. I'm going to center this side to side, and I'm going to bring it up to that line, making sure it's straight, and I'm going to place that first one, just like this. Sometimes it's easier to see first what we're doing before we do it. So I'm going to fold that behind, find my little pencil mark, make sure I'm even side to side, and try to get that on evenly. And I have that down. So now I'm going to burnish that. Okay, the rest of these are very easy. What's going to happen is I'll remove the score tape, I'm going to turn this like this, and I'm going to butt this up next to the other one, and I'm going to place it. Okay, so there's that. I'll turn it over, and they should fall. If you get your first one on straight, the rest should fall pretty even. So here's a tip in case you do get them slightly off and it starts going cattywampus. At the end of the tutorial, what you can do to try to disguise any unevenness from you trying to level yourself up. So what I mean by that is, let's say I got this one on just a little different. And so what happens is it kind of comes out off to the side and it's no longer even. So what you would do with your next one is you would place it so it evens you back up. So it would give you a little space in there where you can see your paper, but at least what it did was it evens you back up. At the end of the tutorial, what you can do is cut strips of paper and slide them in between right there. And on the one that got on a little crooked, what you can do is when you're cutting that strip, you can either widen the strip a little bit down on one edge so that it looks straight, and do something like that. I've had to do that before and it does disguise it. I'm definitely not perfect. I do make mistakes, and I've been doing this a long time. And who knows, maybe I'll make that mistake and have to do it. Okay, we're just going to keep going with these. And the last one. Now the next piece that we're going to want to get is our strap. And that is our last little pre-cut here. And right here is my little score lines, and I'm going to fold on those score lines. Okay, so my score lines are down here. You'll have a top score line and a bottom one. On that bottom one, I want you to pinch and crease it. Okay? Now what we're going to do is just slide that right back underneath in the center. So it's back behind our page now. And you're going to hold that. If you feel it slip around, then you definitely want to realign that. And we're just going to glue this down, and then we'll put it out of the way. And but we do need to place our first magnet. So push back on that other score line to where now it is flat. So we're going to pull that down. We have 2 magnets left for this. And we're going to set them, and then we'll just work on this after we're done getting the rest of this put together. And this is a page where I will be putting the score tape onto the back of my decorator paper rather than using glue. And I am having the biggest issue with getting the adhesive off here. Okay, down here, come up about an inch, I would say. Well, let's see. Oh, for this, I would come up about a ½ inch from the edge. So ½ inch would hit my magnet, and I'll place it in the middle. Now I'm going to place this one on top. Now before you go and flip this over, what I want you to do is just hold that down flat, okay? If you got your strap on crooked, this is where you can make sure that it goes on straight. So you push back against that other one, so now it's kind of straight down there, and you can maneuver it side to side wherever you need it to be, but don't pull on it. Otherwise it's going to be too tight. You want it to be fairly loose so that when we get our other stuff and your pictures underneath, it's not going to pull it too tight. So I think I'm pretty good there. I can't see without getting my head in the video, but I'm going to go with it. I'm going to press. And now I'm going to carefully lift this up, get it off. And now what we're going to do is get our paper for this. In your paper pack, you will find this beautiful print. On the back is the checkers. Let's take off that trim piece. So the first thing we want to do on this sheet is we're just going to measure over 3 3/4 inch and cut. This is what you should have. We're going to measure over 5 inches and cut. We'll measure over again 5 inches and cut. So these are the two pieces we have. What we're going to do with this is we're going to apply glue, and we're going to glue that down to our front panel, leaving a black border all the way around. And what I'm going to do really quick, so you can see underneath where my black is, it's going to look like that. It'll have a nice black border. So let's glue this one down. And we'll center it in there as best we can anyway. Getting it even. I think that's pretty even. And we'll burnish that down really good. Okay, so next what we're going to do is we're going to flip that all the way up, and we are going to glue this one, I'm going to put that back behind, to the back one, just like that. Okay. Alright, so we're going to need some strips, and we're going to actually need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We're going to need 10 ½ inch strips. What we're going to do with this is grab this out of your reserves. We're going to measure over 5 inches and cut. What we're going to do is we're going to measure over ½ inch and cut, and keep cutting ½ inch strips until we have enough. And we need a total, once again, of 10 strips. So I have all my strips, and we will be using all of these alternating. So I am going to stick this back behind my second one. I'll just flip that up. So right down here, we're going to have the checkered up. So we'll do a checkered here, and we're going to have a checkered one up here. So when we place these down, we're going to leave a little bit of a black border on the sides and bottom. And I'm going to pull this down a little bit. So another checkered one, we're going to do the same thing coming to the top. So they're the same. Okay, those two are done. We'll flip that up. I'm going to put this back behind so you can see once again. Now what we're going to do is do the reverse, and I like to find the ones with the roses on it. Any of these that might have roses on it or some leaves or something, those are what's going to go. So again, I'm going to place that down, trying to get it even. I'm going to look through these and see if I don't have any more with some flowers on it. Here's some with some of that peach color, and I'm going to stick it up here. So what we're doing is alternating. And when you're doing like the top, you can actually see to line up with your other one, your checkered one up there. Try and get them on straight. Wipe off any glue. So we're done with that. Slide that back behind. That one has a rose on it. That one does. This one looks pretty good to use. So put my checkered ones down. Just make sure if you have any glue squirting out, you definitely get that up. Got some down here. Get that off. Okay. Next is our roses. So I think that looks really good. And then we have two more pieces, and those are our checkered ones. And then we come to the very back, and this is where I want us to use one of these trim pieces. And what I'm going to do is just kind of, and it will fit. The other one did fit. So over here, you see where you see .com, just right by that M we're going to snip. So now we have nothing. And over here, just right to the left of that M, we're going to cut. And let's see if that fits good. And that will fit nicely. So we're going to glue that down. I got a little crazy with my glue, darn it. And that should fit and match up. Just kind of move it side to side. Get that as even as we can. So now we have a nice little waterfall. And I did want to erase this. And once I get my picture on there, it'll cover that up. So that is that. Let's move this up. This piece, we are going to still leave that alone. It's time to get for down here. And we are going to get into our reserves. We have this square. And this is about 4 5/8 by about 4 3/4. Okay, so I'm going to turn it to where I am 4 3/4 inch wide when I look at this. We're going to measure over 1 3/8 inch and cut, and we will measure over again 1 3/8 inch and cut. Okay, this is really simple. Just grab your pencil or something. You can see your score lines up here, and you have a bottom one. So that's where our starting point is. We're going to bring this right on over it. Just place it. Leave yourself maybe a 1/16 of an inch, just a hair away from that. We'll place it down, and then we're going to be about a 1/16 of an inch away from the edge. So I'm going to make a mark. Now I know where I need to cut, and all I have to do with this is put these together now. Put this on my paper cutter, they're doubled up, and cut. I have both of mine cut now. And on the bottom side, I'm going to place this one. I know it fits. I've checked it. And then we'll glue the other one to the top side. Now we do have that magnet, so just be sure that you get some glue right here to make sure when you're smoothing it out, burnishing, that it gets down and doesn't bubble up on you. Okay. So I am just going to pull this all back and let that attach, and now I'm going to glue this down. That looks really good. Let's turn that over. We're going to go score tape around the outside like a picture frame. And because we have a lot of bulk, what we're going to do is 1 down the middle and 2 on either side. That way we know that when we get more weight from our photographs, that there's no pulling up. Make sure it all stays down. And my lines are all pretty much cattywampus, but I don't care, it's going to get the job done. Make sure this is all burnished nicely. Okay, placement. Here is number 4. I'm going to remove the score tape. Remember, your flap is down, your little strap is at the bottom, and we are going to center that side to side in between those inner score lines. And what you can do to keep yourself even is the bottom of this will match up with the bottom, or do it by the top of your decorated paper over there to match it up. Okay, double check yourself, make sure your strap is down, and let's get it on there. That is fairly straight, hopefully. And now we're going to burnish. Alrighty, we are done with that page. We are now on to page 6. In your paper pack, and we're also going to complete page 7 along with this. So in your paper pack you will find this beautiful print, and on the back it is this. Let's take off that trim piece. We're going to turn it sideways so the little reef is here. We're going to measure over 8 1/4 inches and cut. This is what we have. We'll measure over 6 inches and cut that right in the middle. And we need both of these. So the first one is we're going to glue this, put glue down, and we're going to bring it on over, and we're going to center that in there, and we'll glue it down. All right, this one is for number 7. And again, when we put our glue down and we place this down, we're just going to leave a little bit of room away from that hinge. Wipe up any glue there. Okay, over here, we just put some glue here and here and flap that over for our pocket. If you were using die cuts, we will attach this now. So you may want to look on your first page in there how you place this. So I am just going to look. I was fairly even, and I'm going to place this. The next thing that we want to do is that piece I had you set off to the side. We're going to measure over 8 1/4 inches and cut. And now we apply glue and put it over our pocket. Try to center that and give yourself a little bit of a black lip. Try to line it up with your decorative paper here and here. And we'll burnish. And there is our back pocket. So let's try this out. When you're doing this one over the other, this end should be straight and it should latch. Let's get this piece down now. In your paper pack you will find another one of these. On the back it's the checkered. Let's take off that trim piece. Okay, it doesn't matter which way we're looking at this, so we're just going to measure over 8 1/4 inches and cut. We'll turn that. We'll measure over 6 1/4 inches and cut. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply glue to this side and place this down. If you would rather have this side up, go on ahead. But I'm going to have the checkers up, I think. I mean, it's both really pretty. You can do either or. And boy, that sure is pretty like that. But I think the reason why I used the checkered in the first place is because when it's closed, it may look too busy. And I think that's why I went with the checkered. So I'm going to apply some glue on this. And I like checkered anyway, so. And then we have a few other things that we need to do to finish up, and we should be done here shortly. So there's not much more other than getting the spine pieces on the side and the back with getting some strips there. And with this, I'm just going to move it over and center that in there as best I can so that it's even. Okay, time to burnish. And if it's easier, like for me it's easier, I'm just going to open this up because I do need to get on the other parts too. We have those strips that we want to do. And this is very easy. Grab this back out of your reserves. We should be 8 1/4 inches this way. And we are. So what we're first going to do is we are going to need for our spine here, right here, we're going to need a strip here, and we're going to need a strip for that side. So first things first, we're going to measure over 3/8 of an inch and cut. We'll measure over again 3/8 and cut. I have those, and I'm just going to prop this up so I can see, and I'm going to glue those right on down. Now score tape is the best bet for me, but I'm going to do this with some glue and burnish. Alright, so that's done. Now over here, same thing. Straight. And wipe up any glue. I'm sure I got my glue wiped up over here. Okay, for these, here's my back right now. I'm going to need to grab that same piece. I'm 8 1/4 inch long, and all we're going to do is measure over 1/2 inch and cut. We'll measure over 1/2 inch and cut again. Here are my two pieces, and they're just going to lay right there, just leaving a little bit of a black border. And I'll line that up with the top and bottom of my decorated paper. Now don't take off on me yet, we're not quite done because there are some things that we want to add to our folio that I added in the other one that kind of made it special. Alright, so we have all of that done. Let's move into our first page where we have that pocket. In your paper pack, I'm just going to kind of move this out of the side. In your paper pack, you will find this. And there are a couple pieces that I would like to get out. So I'm going to try and keep everything intact so that when at the end, it's easier for me to pack up my leftovers for my next project or whatever I want to use it in. But down here, you will see there's a book. And we're just going to take this one thing at a time, and I'm going to cut that out. Next, you will see there's a stack of books. So I'm going to kind of weave in there and get that out. So, first things first. I'm going to cut out and around both of these images. So mine kind of came out like this, and then there's this. Now you should have some leftover scrap cardstock from when we were doing the pre-cuts. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue these down to some of that. And then I'm going to cut out and around these images, leaving a little bit of a black border. It really does kind of make it nice finished look in my opinion, and it also helps it from getting lost in the background prints. Kind of separates it out, and it does add something. So I'm going to do mine really quick, and then I'm going to show you mine when I'm done. I have both mine cut out, and that's what it looks like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply some glue over here without getting it over here. So about halfway on these books need some glue. And I'm just going to come up maybe a 1/4 inch or so, and I'm going to place it. This one here, I'm just going to overlap, and I am going to glue along the bottom so it does not get caught. Just a little over here. And it kind of just lines up with your paper. And that is it. That is the only thing I wanted to add to this. It does not need much, that's for sure. Our folio is complete. I hope that you've enjoyed this tutorial. I think it came out absolutely amazing. And what's better is it was quick and it was simple. I will see you on my next tutorial. Happy crafting, everybody. And thanks for joining me.